This video is for educational and documentary purposes only. All efforts have been made to adhere to YouTube's community guidelines. Viewer discretion is advised. Rex Heuermann's story begins in the quiet suburban neighborhood of Massapequa Park, Long Island, where he was born in 1963. Raised in a modest household, Rex's parents, Theodore and Dolores Heuermann, provided a stable but unremarkable upbringing. His father, a craftsman, inspired Rex's interest in design and construction from a young age. His mother, Dolores, managed the home and cared for Rex and his brother, Craig. The family lived a typical suburban life in Massapequa Park, where Rex attended local schools and developed a fascination with architecture, eventually pursuing it as a career. In 1996, Rex married Asa Ellerup, and together they raised two children, Victoria and Christopher. The family lived in Rex's childhood home, which he had purchased from his mother in 1994. Asa worked at Long Island Jewish Medical Center, and Christopher, who has special needs, required substantial care. The Heuermann household was described as private, with neighbors noting the family's reserved nature. Rex commuted to Manhattan, where he operated his architecture firm, RH Consultants and Associates, presenting himself as a diligent professional. Despite this facade, Rex is accused of leading a double life as the Gilgo Beach Serial Killer. The murders came to light in December 2010, when authorities discovered the remains of 4 women along Ocean Parkway near Gilgo Beach during the search for missing sex worker Shannon Gilbert. These women, later referred to as the Gilgo 4, were young sex workers who had disappeared under similar circumstances. The victims' lives were marked by struggle, but also by resilience. Each of them faced unique challenges, and their disappearances left deep scars on their families. Maureen Brainerd Barnes, born in 1982 in Norwich, Connecticut, Maureen was a devoted mother of 2 children. She was described by friends and family as caring, hardworking, and determined to provide a better life for her kids. Financial difficulties forced Maureen to turn to sex work as a means of supporting her family, but she never let go of her dreams for a better future. In July 2007, Maureen traveled to New York City for work, telling her family she would return soon. She was never seen alive again. Her disappearance devastated her family. Her children, too young to fully understand, grew up with a profound sense of loss, while her parents and siblings were left grappling with guilt and unanswered questions. They clung to hope for years, even after her remains were discovered in December 2010. The news brought some closure, but the pain of her absence remained. Melissa Barthelemy. Born in 1985 in Buffalo, New York, Melissa was an outgoing and vivacious young woman who dreamed of becoming a cosmetologist. She moved to New York City to pursue her career, but struggled to make ends meet. Financial pressures led her to sex work, though she maintained close contact with her family, especially her younger sister, Amanda. In July 2009, Melissa disappeared after telling a friend she was meeting a client. Days later, her family began receiving chilling phone calls from her cell phone. The caller, believed to be her killer, taunted them with graphic and disturbing details about Melissa. The Barthelemy family was plunged into anguish, enduring not only the loss of Melissa but also the horror of the phone calls. Amanda, in particular, was deeply affected, dedicating herself to keeping her sister's memory alive and advocating for justice. Megan Waterman. Born in 1988, Scarborough, Maine, Megan was a loving mother to her young daughter. Her family described her as kind, empathetic, and deeply committed to providing for her child. Megan turned to sex work to support her family, hoping it would be a temporary solution while she built a better life. In June 2010, Megan disappeared after leaving a hotel in Hauppauge, New York. Her family was devastated, and her daughter was left to grow up without her mother. Megan's disappearance left a lasting impact on her family, who struggled with the void her absence created. When her remains were discovered in December 2010, the confirmation of her death was both a relief and a heartbreak. Amber Lynn Costello. Born in 1983 in North Carolina, Amber was a free-spirited woman who moved to New York seeking new opportunities. Amber battled substance abuse, a struggle that led her to sex work to support her addiction. Despite her challenges, Amber was described as warm and generous, always willing to help those in need. In September 2010, Amber disappeared after agreeing to meet a client. Her family, aware of her struggles, worried for her safety, but held on to hope that she would come home. When her remains were found among the other Gilgo victims, her family was devastated. Amber's sister in particular became an advocate for sex worker safety, using Amber's story to raise awareness about the dangers they face. Jessica Taylor. Jessica, born in 1984, faced significant hardships throughout her life, including homelessness. Despite these challenges, she was known for her determination to survive and her resourcefulness. Jessica turned to sex work as a means of survival, though she dreamed of one day building a more stable life. Jessica disappeared in 2003, and her torso was discovered in Manorville that year. Additional remains were later found near Gilgo Beach in 2011. Her family, who had already endured years of uncertainty, faced the crushing realization of her death. They continue to advocate for justice in her memory. Valerie Mack. Valerie, born in 1976 in New Jersey, was a devoted mother who worked as a sex worker to support herself and her child. Her family described her as loving and determined, always putting her son's needs first. Valerie disappeared in 2000s, leaving her family desperate for answers. Her partial remains were discovered in Manorville in 2000s, with additional remains found near Gilgo Beach in 2011. On December 17, 2024, Rex Harriman was officially charged with Valerie's murder. Her family, who had spent years in agony, expressed relief that someone was being held accountable, but lamented the decades lost without closure. The disappearances of these women left their families grappling with grief, guilt, and anger. Many struggled with societal stigma, as the victims' involvement in sex work often overshadowed their humanity in the public eye. Families became vocal advocates, working to change the narrative around their loved ones and ensure their stories were heard. The Gilgo Beach murders underscored the vulnerabilities faced by sex workers, highlighting systemic failures that allowed these crimes to go undetected for so long. The families of the victims continue to fight for justice, ensuring their loved ones are remembered not just as victims, but as individuals with lives, dreams, and people who loved them. The investigation into Rex's crimes spanned over a decade, culminating in a comprehensive search of his Massapequa Park home. During the search, investigators uncovered a basement vault containing 279 firearms, a discovery that raised concerns about Rex's capacity for further violence. Additionally, authorities found a planning document outlining methods for committing the murders, potential dump sites, and strategies for evading detection. Investigators also recovered violent pornography, including materials depicting bondage and torture, aligning with the nature of the crimes. A collection of news clippings and online reports about the Gilgo Beach murders dating back to 2003 was discovered, suggesting Rex kept these as souvenirs or mementos of his crimes. No human remains were found at the property, but the evidence uncovered painted a chilling portrait of a man who meticulously planned and executed his alleged crimes. Rex is believed to have used burner phones to lure his victims, posing as a client offering significant sums of money. His professional demeanor and calculated manipulation allowed him to gain their trust before restraining, torturing, and ultimately killing them. The use of burlap to bind the victims in the secluded burial sites indicated a methodical approach designed to evade detection. The Harriman family's life was irrevocably altered by Rex's arrest. Asa filed for divorce shortly afterward, distancing herself and her children from the allegations. Victoria and Christopher faced intense public scrutiny, struggling to reconcile their family's history with the horrifying accusations. Massapequa Park residents were stunned, grappling with the realization that a suspected serial killer had been living among them. The community was left questioning how someone like Rex could conceal such darkness beneath a polished exterior.
Remember their loved ones. For the family of Megan Waterman, the arrest in her murder was bittersweet.
Anger and relief. It's starting all over again. She was a vulnerable, naive drug addict girl who was very easily influenced by this monster of a man.
Detectives say Waterman, along with Melissa Barthelemy and Amber Costello, were all sex workers who were murdered at Gilgo Beach back in 2010, a case that baffled investigators and the public.
He does not look capable of what he did. I was honestly very shocked, because 13 years is far too long.
For Amber Costello's aunt, time did not heal the wounds.
She was a very sweet, loving, giving, young woman. She just, went down the wrong road.
Bonnie Sassy spoke to us over the phone from North Carolina. She remembers her 27-year-old niece's radiant smile and shares her reaction to the arrest.
I'm elated. God knows what else he's done.
Day after day, the families waited while the investigators never gave up.
Yeah, job well done. All of the family members of these poor victims, we never thought we'd see this day. So I'm rejoicing. I know they are too.
In Gilgo Beach, Naveen Dhaliwal, CBS 2 News.
There are other families waiting for justice, and they're also speaking out. 20-year-old Jessica Taylor disappeared from Manhattan in 2003. Her skeletal remains were found in a wooded area in Manorville, and additional remains were discovered in 2011 along Ocean Parkway during the search for another missing woman. Today's arrest brought her family some hope.
I'm grateful for the hard work that's been done. I'm grateful that today is happening, and I'm hopeful for the future.
We're happy that the police are finally taking a positive step in this respect, but this is just the beginning.
The case also reignited conversations about the dangers sex workers face and the systemic vulnerabilities that allowed these crimes to persist. As Rex's trial approaches, investigators continue to examine his past for links to other unsolved cases. The discovery of planning documents and trophies taken from victims adds to the chilling narrative of a man who lived two lives. While the charges offer a glimmer of justice for the victims and their families, the pain of loss and unanswered questions linger. The story of Rex Heuermann serves as a grim reminder of the hidden darkness that can exist behind the most ordinary facades. The lives of his victims, women who loved, struggled, and persevered, remain at the heart of this harrowing case, ensuring their voices are not forgotten. Hope they put Rex under the jail. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Till next time, be safe.